Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any additions or deletions or questions? Not all in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. So moved.
Good morning.
Good morning, Tina.
Morning.
Would you like to introduce yourself and then you may proceed?
Tina Tobias, Deputy Treasurer. We started with a cash balance of $2,350,103.56. Our receipts for the 14th and 15th were $1,363,991.03, which brought us to a total cash of $3,714,094.59, less our expenditures of $2,343,099.86, and less tax claim of $105,431.88, which brought our cash balance to $1,265,562.85.
Motion?
I make a motion to approve the treasurer's report subject to audit, and I also have a question.
We have a second?
Second that.
Okay, question.
Yes, I noticed that the amount of money in our unrestricted funds dropped by $1 million.
Yes, we had to use $1 million of that for our payroll like 2 weeks ago.
Okay, so that'll get replaced, is that
Yes,
correct?
when the tax money starts coming in, we'll replace that.
I just wanted to make sure I was
Yep.
on the same page. Thank
Yep.
you.
Thank you, Tina. All in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. So moved. And that is our customary, using our own money instead of borrowing, covering payroll and other expenses. Good morning. Morning,
Morning.
Laura.
Michelle Snavely, Director of Human Resources. Under resignations and terminations, Celine Mars, Caseworker 1 and Children and Youth resignation effective February 3rd. Deborah Hoffman, Administrative Assistant 1, Commissioner's Office, rescind acceptance of employment effective February 21st. Brian Ward, Deputy Director of 911, Department of Emergency Services, resignation effective March 3rd. Pedro Cruz Catala, Full-Time Correctional Officer at the jail, resignation effective February 3rd, last working day, January 7th. Jonathan Bell, Full-Time Correctional Officer at the jail, retirement effective April 4th. Travis Souders, Adult Probation Officer, Probation Services, resignation effective February 17th. And Brett Ozowski, Full-Time Deputy Sheriff, Sheriff's Office, resignation effective February 10th.
Make a motion to approve those resignations and terminations.
I'll second the motion with special recognition to Jonathan Bell, serving since 1982. That's a good long time.
40 years of service. Very well recognized. Any questions regarding the motion for these transactions? Hearing none, all in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. So moved.
Under changes of status, transfers, and promotions, I have a motion to approve the 2023 Civil Service Compensation Plan, which pertains to Children and Youth Services, MHIDEI, Area Agency on Aging, and the Commission on Drug and Alcohol Abuse funding for the 2023-2024 fiscal year.
I'll make a motion to approve the new civil service compensation plan for our human service agencies.
Second.
Okay, it's been duly moved and seconded. Any questions regarding the motion? Hearing none, all in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. So moved.
Sandy Ridiger, promotion from Office Support 2 in Domestic Relations to Admin Assistant 1 in Domestic Relations at the rate of $1,192.91 biweekly effective February 20th. Dustin Gonzalez, promotion from Lance Corporal at the jail to Corporal at the jail at the rate of $26.94 per hour effective February 19th. Christina Kolb, transfer from MDJ Figueroa's office as Office Support 1 to MDJ Garver's office as Office Support 1, no change in her rate, effective March 6th. Kimberly Shaw, promotion from EI Caseworker 2 at MHIDEI to ID Program Specialist 1 at MHIDEI at the rate of $2,006.55 biweekly, effective February 20th. Christopher Duran, promotion from full-time deputy sheriff in the sheriff's office to deputy sergeant at the rate of $1,534.26 biweekly effective February 19th. Austin Carpenter, promotion from full-time deputy sheriff in the sheriff's office to deputy sergeant at the rate of $1,534.26 biweekly effective February 19th.
Motion to approve those changes, transfers, and promotions.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve those transactions. Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, so moved.
Under other transactions, I have a motion to approve a request from Ryan Wirtz, Administrator of Community Action Partnership Programs, to reclassify a current full-time medical assistance transportation program officer position to create a new full-time medical assistant transportation program officer at a grade 10 on the non-union salary chart at 37.5 hours per week with full-time benefits effective immediately, February 16, 2023. This position is fully funded through grant funding.
I'll make a motion to approve Ryan's request for a program officer at the Community Action Partnership.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve that request. Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign, so moved.
Children and Youth would like to hire Holly Whitmer as a caseworker 1 at the rate of $1,239.52 biweekly effective February 21st. President Judge Towalk would like to hire Toby Burris as a law clerk at the rate of $1,598.40 biweekly effective April 3rd. District Attorney would like to hire Margaret Bowman as a Secretary B at the rate of $1,110.38 biweekly effective February 21st. And the Lebanon County Correctional Facility would like to hire Amber Deckert as Office Support 1 at the rate of $944.55 biweekly effective February 21st.
Make a motion to approve those hires.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve those transactions. Any questions or comments regarding the motion? Hearing none, all in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign, so moved.
Moving on to Salary Board, motion to approve all the transactions previously read plus the following. Daniel Linares, Corridor, salary increase, Assistant District Attorney 1 in the District Attorney's Office to the rate of $2,247.48 biweekly, retroactive to December 25th, 2022. This is a correction to his 2023 salary. Stanley Smith Jr., longevity payment, full-time correctional officer / Lance Corporal at the jail. A one-time $2,000 15-year longevity payment effective March 9th.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the salary board recommendations. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign, so moved. Thank you, Michelle. Nicole? Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome.
Thank you.
You just introduce yourself and then you may proceed.
Okay. I am Nicole Eisenhart. I'm from the DA's office. I am here with a grant proposal. So the VOCA grant is for direct services to victims and helps partially fund our victim witness department. The grant term itself is from October of 2023 to the end of September 2025. However, we only have a budget for year 1 because of uncertainty, and this uncertainty has kind of been going on for years. We haven't actually had any impact from it yet, but they have not yet released a budget for year 2. So we were only allowed to input a budget for year 1. The good news is the grant amount that we were awarded for Lebanon County, the $123,493, is the same as the last grant cycle. We had those same numbers per year, so that's a good steady amount. The budget itself is the same or pretty consistent with what we have done before. In terms of hours, we allow for overtime. That way, if advocates need to work more hours because of trials and victims being present, they're able to do that because it's built into the budget. This also covers the victim on-call advocate, the advocate on-call phone, and and those sorts of things. We cover a portion of medical coverage for the advocates, as well as some training and supplies. There is a little uncertainty in the supplies, and I included in the budget an estimate as far as the replacement case management software, because it was only last week that we found out effective December the UCM program will not be working. If we sign a contract before the grant needs to be submitted, I would like to change that in the grant before it's submitted. Would you like me to represent, or does it not matter if it doesn't change the ultimate bottom line?
I would say we could stipulate that in the
In
motion.
the motion.
Okay,
That would be, covered either way.
okay, that would be helpful, just because they're trying to find a new program, and hopefully we have that by the end of the month. And we won't know what it costs until we do that. But each of the grants will cover a portion of that software. I'll have to do a modification for the Rasa Vojo, but we'll worry about that when it comes. So overall, the grant application and the budget that I presented is very similar to what we've done in the last VOCA grant. No big purchases, just the UCM, the copier monthly fee, mobile hotspot, and the phone costs.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the $123,493 VOCA grant for year one, with the stipulation that because of the UCM option being removed, there may be a change in vendor.
Second.
Thank you.
Does that cover it, Nicole?
Yes, that should be fine, just as long as I don't have to waste your time if I don't have to.
All right, any questions regarding the motion? Hearing none, all in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, same sign, so moved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And then we did get the award notification for Rasa Vojo. I wasn't sure if that was something that had to be presented at a meeting to be signed. It was the award for the grant that was previously approved. It just needs to be signed by someone.
We can accept a motion if we want to just make sure that that's covered. That'll be fine. We can do that right now.
I'll make a motion to approve that.
Second?
And then if you just want to go into a little bit of what you're, a little more depth.
So the Rasa Vojo grant is a grant that had been awarded for 2023 and 2024. This one runs calendar year to calendar year. We got notification at the beginning of this month, after the grant term already started, that we finally were approved for that. So in total, we get $172,000 for Rasa and approximately $60,000 in Vojo. Rasa is procedural services for adult victims. Vojo is all services for juvenile victims. So once they finally give us the notification that we got our grant, we have to basically sign accepting that, which we've already applied for the grant.
We're
so
inclined to accept it.
yes, I would hope so. So yeah, it just needs to be signed by someone from the commissioners, and then we send that back. I included that with the stuff I sent
did you?
Dawn.
Okay.
Yeah.
Motion? Motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, I'm sorry, maybe we already did that.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. Any questions regarding the motion for Nicole? If not, all in favor of accepting this grant?
Aye.
Please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, so moved.
Thank you. And
You're
do you need me to leave copies, or are you good?
No, good.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well,
Good morning. Good morning.
got the A-team here, all right. Good morning and welcome. And if you'd like to introduce yourselves, you may proceed in any way you'd like.
Well, my name is Pat Kerwin. I'm with the Lebanon Valley Expo Center,
I'm Daniel Siegel with the Lebanon Area Fair Board.
and we're here today to express our appreciation for the grant money that you kindly gave to the Expo Center and to the fair. It's been wonderful. We've repaved our parking lot. Remember, it was a parking lot grant. We've gotten so many wonderful comments about how great it looks. And I brought some pictures. I thought maybe we could just pass around just a few of them. But not only get compliments on the appearance, but we were able to pave around the buildings. So the problem we had in the past where people were driving on those stones and in the mud and then coming into the building, and sometimes, like today, we have a tractor event moving in, they would have to wash their vehicles once they brought them in because they got muddy coming in or dusty or dirty. So it's been a huge, huge benefit to the Expo Center, and I can't thank you enough. There's one piece remaining, and that is we're hoping to widen the driveway. We're working with PennDOT on that, and seems to be slowly moving forward, so we're excited about that. I just didn't want to take a lot of your time, but I want to tell you how much we appreciate that support and your everyday support of the Expo Center. I know you've all been out there and seen the parking lot, but just wanted to come in and say thanks.
Just ask, in your guessing at this point, I know the public is going to appreciate the widening if that ends up happening. Any time frame that you can forecast?
I really can't. It's we're working with Traffic Planning and Design, a consulting firm,
It's
and
3 years. Go ahead.
they told us that we probably ought to be thinking about a year and a half from when we started. So
Okay.
we're into it probably 6 months or maybe a little longer. And
That's
they
gonna be
did
such a-
they did some traffic counts, you know, and PennDOT has these lots of regulations about how wide it can or can't be depending on traffic counts. So that's kind of where we are. I wish I could give you something more
That's
positive.
okay. We have a meeting with them at 11:30, so maybe we can.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, worst case scenario would be during the fair week.
Yes. Oh my God.
Well, we'll try and express it, that's not an acceptable option.
We appreciate it. To us, it's a sound investment, with tourism and all the activity out there that's really highly regarded throughout the state. You know, the whole expo operation, the fair, and so on. So Daniel, do you want to give a little?
Just on the fair side of things, we're obviously working in concert with the Expo Center because Expo Center is the one that actually owns the grounds. But in terms of our project, which is the bleacher project and track improvements, overall track improvements, the progress of that is, as of last week, all permits are now in place to allow movement of dirt to start, which the anticipated timeline for that is the next 1 or 2 weeks, starting the movement of dirt, drilling, blasting, planning, and those sorts of things. The bleachers that were existing that we are going to be continuing to use, the aluminum ones that are in perfect shape, have already been moved off the site area. I would have probably cringed watching that process, but they are moved off site and they're sitting there ready so that once the new concrete pad and everything is in place, they can be moved back and then seen together with the new bleachers that are on order. The new bleachers are on order. We've already paid the down payment and they should be arriving in April. At least that's the hopeful timeline right now. So really, through hell or high water at the fair, we should have new bleachers.
We'll
and
have
a whole
to
new
tape for
green
that
zone.
usage of that word. Go ahead.
I'm not allowed to say that. I'm sorry. But yeah, I mean, everything in place, everything finished up, and ready to go for fair time.
And the capacity will be.
The capacity will be increased, and then the other huge advantage to it, obviously, is that everything is up to code.
Yes.
We have our aisleways rather than having antiquated bleachers where everybody sits and you zigzag up through to sit. We're going to actually have stairways with railings, and then we also have new lighting. We've already paid for the lights to lock in those prices, but the new lighting will provide safety all around also. So
Are those directional to come down onto the track, or does it go up into the sky?
that's outside my pay grade, but my understanding was that they're directing at the track, and then they also are going to have some that are pointed right down so that the crowd has lighting
Great,
for safety reasons.
okay. That's just important for like the gap flying over at night and stuff.
Yeah, we were letting, I mean, it sort of led up to the engineers who are designing that part
And
of it.
hopefully they're up on all that,
I would hope, yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But that's the news from the fair side, and again, appreciate the support, not only for this one-time grant, but the ongoing. It's never forgotten.
I could add, I mean, Bob mentioned the sound investment. It's a great investment. The facilities, but beyond the facilities, what the expo does and the fair does for our local economy, the positive impact is, I don't know how we can measure that completely, but it takes a good experience for all the vendors that come in here, for all the visitors. You too and your teams deserve credit for that, so thank you very much.
And indirectly, I mean, really, if you think about it, it's an investment in our people, in the young people who are going to be the future farmers and make sure we have food to eat. So, you know, it's a great partnership.
Well, and it reflects on the county as a whole, I think, when you can attract the volunteers that we get to support that. I mean, it just speaks well of our, you know, the nature of our county, that they all step up to fill all those booths and chip in, and it's just a great experience. And
Everybody in this room knows about it, but they all volunteer at the fair.
I wasn't talking about us.
No,
Patrick,
I'm just saying.
But I mean,
so nice.
When you see the outpouring of support for it, it's just because we have good people running it, and a good cause, and all that works together, and then the people's just their the heritage that they have in terms of their volunteering for other things. You know, this is a natural extension of that. So
Yeah, I mean, in an era when other nonprofits are struggling to get volunteer help, I mean,
yeah,
You do really
We're
well.
doing-
I
okay.
didn't know I was volunteering. Dan told me I had to do this, and I had to keep doing it till I get it right.
it's
That's
a job
called
required.
When you're voluntold, you just do
No,
it.
you guys are wonderful. Thank you.
did you have a question?
Yeah, Dan, before
Yeah.
you check out of here, how much did the bleachers cost? Do you know?
I don't have that, but I'd be going off of memory here. I
Generally.
think the bleachers were somewhere in the area of 600, some thousand between the including the concrete pad, and then the lighting. I could get you the exact breakdown if you'd
That's
like,
about right, though.
but that's my
No, I mean just like generally,
Yeah.
600 grand for the
for
bleachers
the
and
whole
pad.
project. I mean, not just the aluminum slab. We're talking concrete pad. We're talking widening the track, replacing the wall that's collapsing at the track,
An installation.
and then the installation. Yeah.
Okay,
So
the lighting is separate though.
Correct.
Okay.
It's all gonna be done at the same time.
No,
but the
that's
lighting,
just the cost of the lighting
correct,
is separate.
correct.
And then the capacity increase
I can
seating. Do you know
get
what that
you
is?
those numbers. It's a little shameful to admit, but at the other with everything being older, we had a rough count, but it all depended on how people sat and where the stairs formed, like where people left space. But I believe it's in the thousand in terms of space. You do lose a little space because you have more space devoted to the walkways. So it's a less, like per square foot, it's a less efficient seating, but it's a safe seating.
And the only, are you finished?
Mm-hmm.
The only other question, you mentioned just the expansion of the track.
Mm-hmm.
What is that going to do? Are you deep enough in that just to give
So-
an idea what that'll?
The track itself, the expansion of the track is going to allow for a greater variety of events to be held there. We have a rodeo there on Monday night of the fair, and the general consensus of barrel racers is this is just a little too tight for our horse. And so that's just one example. We have other people who are interested in running two tracks at the same time for pools, truck and tractor pools. The widening of it would allow for a more varying use. And then it also, your main event is happening farther away from the seating, which is always a goal as well for safety.
Okay, well, very good. Thank you for the updates, and we appreciate you coming in and giving us your thanks. We know you appreciate it.
Thank you again.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning, Bob.
Are we getting your good side, or what?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Uh,
I have to clear off my head.
edit that out too. Just introduce yourself, and you may go ahead.
I'm Bob Dowd, Director of the Department of Emergency Services. And I'm here this morning asking the Commissioners to approve a change order for the building in the amount of $2,461.75. This change order is to add some sheet metal to a couple of the air conditioning units and to install an additional louver on the side of the building, fresh air louver.
Motion?
Motion approved.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve that change order as requested. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign, so moved. Short and sweet.
Did that last part, electronic part come in that you were waiting on yet? To switch over?
The switchgear, no, that's projected to be here sometime in August,
August.
which is after the building's supposed to be done, but it won't impact our ability to start installing equipment, which is the first several months of that building being open. So.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. Pretty much on time.
Morning.
Good morning. Is that your Mardi Gras time?
Something like that. My springtime.
Oh, spring,
Going
okay.
against the
Feels like
groundhog, I
spring.
guess. So
Yeah,
it
yeah.
does feel like spring. We do
Huh?
have a
St.
few
Patrick's
joining
Day.
us.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, there's so
See 'em
much
yet?
going on right
Okay,
now with
all right.
holidays.
Guess they'll pop up there on, oh,
There's
one's-
one right there.
one's popping
Okay,
in.
good.
Good morning, sir.
Thanks for helping us with that.
no problem. Thank you. You bet, too.
Okay, we have Doug with us.
Doug, and there's going to be about one or two others that should be joining us shortly. So we were going to start, and
Yep.
then they can join us whenever you.
We're good.
We're good,
If you'd like to
okay.
introduce yourselves, and then we'll just bring them in as they come.
Sure, that sounds fine.
Okay.
My name is Brett Holland with Stifel Financial.
Mike Battistelli with Stifel.
Thank you for allowing us to come in this morning. You're going to be joining us here in just a few moments via Zoom there. One of our groups that help us manage some of the funds for the county pension. They're with Madison Investments. They have a piece that's in fixed income, and then they also have a piece that's in what we call mid-cap or medium-sized companies. So they're going to speak for a couple minutes after our comments here with our update on our report, if that's all right. So the report, normal report that we go through, if you turn to page 4 of 11 in the bottom right-hand corner. And this report is for the period of October 1st to December 31st, so the fourth quarter of the year. And up in the top left-hand side, where it says under relationship overview for periods of time, the current period, which is that quarter, we started off the quarter with the pension at $118,096,940, and then during the quarter, there was $2.7 million of withdrawals on that. And then there was appreciation of $8,069,269, and then the ending year value of $123,458,157. And then if you move 2 columns to the right of that, at the top, you'll notice it says year to date, so the full year for last year, for calendar year 2022. We started the year off at $153 million, and then with withdrawals underneath that of about $8.5 million. And then we had a loss of $21,601,184 there. And then the final balance, or ending balance again at that $123 million number that we had. So our returns there at the bottom, you can see for the quarter, we were up 6.85% for the quarter. And then for the year, you can see underneath there, we were down 14.15% for the year. Just to kind of give a little perspective, sometimes we'll talk about kind of how overall markets did during that time. The bond market was down about 13% during that time. The stock market comparable stock market was down about 18% during that time. And then the closest comparison for what the way that the county is invested, the way that the pension is invested, that index was down a little over 16%. So we did have a difficult year. We talked about that a little bit at the last meeting, and I believe the fellows today are going to talk some more about that too, kind of what contributed to that. Any questions on that part at all? Bottom right-hand corner, just real briefly again, is just the overall allocation. So it kind of shows four main categories. The cash and equivalents, they show at zero. We're not really holding any cash right now in the portfolio. Moving around clockwise, the equities or the stocks are about 64%. Fixed income or the bonds are 29%. And then alternative investments, which are the REIT portfolio, is about 6% currently at the end of the year here. And then I'm going to have you go to page 6, if you would, please. Again, bottom right-hand corner, 6 of 11. And this is important because this has your long-term numbers listed in it. And if you see about a third of the way over, you see the 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, and 10-year period kind of across the top. And if you go to the bottom line, it shows, as I just mentioned, last year was negative 14%. And then there's a 3-year number after that. So for the last 3 years, the pension has averaged 2.79%, and that's per year. So even with the poor year that we had last year, that's been the average of 2.79%. The 5-year number of 4.76, and then the 10-year number of 6.53, and that's per year. So you have obviously up years, we have down years, and that's been the average over the last 10 years. With that, Mike has updated numbers, and then we can introduce the
The assumption 725?
7 1/4, I believe. Is that
725.
yeah, yeah. So obviously, the past year kind of has affected those the 3, 5, and 10-year numbers. So we can get things back on track. That 10-year number will bounce, could bounce anyway. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. But any questions on what Brett shared with you at all?
I don't know.
So I guess I get to share a little bit of better news in that we are off to a much better start this year. Through yesterday, we're up about 5.35%. Of course, that's an unaudited number, but that's what I have. So that brings our balance as through yesterday of $128,833,605. And again, that's in line with, again, as Brett alluded to, some of the indexes. That's right now we're right in line with what the market's providing. So that looks pretty favorable. Our allocation is still the same, so we're still within our guidelines, our targets, within the investment policy that the board here has approved in the past. And we don't feel like there's any need to make any changes right now. The portfolio is constructed in such a way that it's somewhat defensive, which is, I think, good. I think that's what helped us last year, frankly, to get some better performance than the indexes. And everything that we've done, it's always been with the best of quality in mind. Every manager that we utilize, and we always hear quality. You know, everybody wants good quality, but I think our managers walk the walk in that they really look at the fundamentals and balance sheets, low debt on the companies that they're invested in as far as the equities are concerned. So just keep that in mind. It's built that way overall.
So for the long
Right.
Right.
So we'll just take a minute and kind of introduce the folks that are online. So I mentioned Madison Investment. So we have two. We wanted to bring two different pieces today. An equity. So they manage an equity piece. They also manage fixed income because last year's challenging year that we talked about was challenging for equities, but it was also challenging for fixed income with what the Federal Reserve was doing and so on. And I'm sure they'll reference that. But on the equity side, we have Andy Raman. I'm going to say his name. I practiced this too. Raman. I'll let them introduce themselves.
So much for practice.
I apologize. I did practice too. So he helps out with the medium-sized companies. And then Doug Fry, thank you, Doug, for having a simple last name there, is on the fixed income side. And then we also have Chris Ailman, who is kind of our liaison with Madison. So with that, we'll hand it off. And I'm not sure who's going to speak first, but we'll just hand it off to you fellas at this point.
So I'll just step in real quick again. Chris Almon, covering for everything here. As they mentioned about last year, I mean, you could say what you want about it, but there were some tough times. But I think one of the key characteristics was the quality piece, and the PMs that are going to speak in front of you right now are going to reiterate that. We're going to stay relatively...
He froze.
The portfolios, et cetera, and what we're seeing going forward, if that's okay. If anybody has any questions, feel free to jump in. We do not mind stopping. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Andy to start with.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Thanks, guys. Appreciate the opportunity to speak about Madison MidCap and your guys' investments. So,
Excuse me, you folks want to move to 3 seats here if you'd like to have a better spot.
Hang on just a minute, Andy, sorry. Just gonna shuffle seats.
oh, no problem. Makes sense. Like Chris said, we'll keep it high level. I think, for the year overall, performance was pretty good for the fourth quarter and for the year. For the fourth quarter, the market was up pretty strongly in mid-cap world, about 9%. And we outperformed, being up about 10%. And for the year, it was a little bit of a different environment. The market was actually down in mid-cap land around 17%. We were down only 12%. And if you kind of look at what drove the performance, similar to how we kind of expect, a lot of it was driven by stock picking. We're very bottom-up focused, we're very quality focused, and we run a concentrated portfolio of around 30 stocks, really hand-picked, highly curated, quality, businesses, wonderful businesses that we love to own for the long term. And they did quite well for the year. And I'll point to one example is insurance. We typically have pretty high weighting in insurance, around 20% of the portfolio. And we do that because insurance companies, are very defensive. And so that means they do well when the market goes down. But they also can grow with the economy because everyone needs insurance. And when your business is growing, you need to increase your unit exposures. And so they can kind of participate when the economy does well, but also, protect when the economy sags. That's exactly what we saw last year. The economy was weakening and the market was weakening, and our insurance companies did quite well. For example, Arch Capital, our biggest holding, was up very, very nicely. That was despite a couple headwinds. I think for the year, we outperformed despite not being having a lot of exposure to some of the hottest areas of the market. For example, energy. The energy sector was up over 50%. And we didn't own any energy stocks. That's because a lot of these companies don't fit some of the criteria that I just talked about. They're simply they don't have very strong competitive advantages. They're kind of tied to the price of oil or the price of natural gas. Very, very difficult to kind of predict those commodity prices, and they're highly volatile. So we typically have shied away from investing in those areas, but we were able to overcome that with strong stock picking. The other thing I'll highlight is the year was very focused on value. Kind of deep value companies or deep value stocks tended to do very, very well. We tend to be a high quality growth type portfolio. So that was a little bit of a headwind because the deep value stocks tended to do very, very well, and we were a little bit light there. But again, our focus on bottom up, fundamental, high quality businesses, and being very sensitive on valuation really helped us outperform. Kind of despite those headwinds for the year. I'm happy to go into some more details. That's kind of the high level breakdown, but happy to go to any other direction if you guys would like me to.
We have a
Hey,
question.
Andy.
Andy, I
Go
think
ahead.
we have one question, Andy.
Yeah.
Andy, my name's Joellen Litz, and I'm one of the commissioners. I was curious about the energy stock that you are investing in for us. Is that like concentrated in gas, solar, wind power? What exactly are we investing in?
Yeah, actually, sorry if I wasn't clear. We actually do not have any energy companies in the portfolio currently. So energy sector overall was very, very good. But as of now, we have zero weight in the energy sector, so nothing in your portfolio right now.
Okay, I misunderstood what you were saying. It was confusing. Thank you.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Okay. Anything else, Commissioner?
I think for everyone in the room, I think the next thing that Andy should also discuss is, while last year was, let's just say, some crazy times, I think we should talk about what we've seen so far, how the market's performing, and what we see going forward, as Brett alluded to with the Fed and everything else. So if you can touch on that, Andy, I think that would be helpful.
Yeah, happy to do that. So, I think a couple different things. So on the market, we're a month and a half into the year. Obviously, the market's starting off pretty strongly. I think everyone's kind of digesting, what's going on with the Fed. Are they done? Are they going to? How much more are they going to go? Maybe will they pivot, and will they, actually see interest rates go down by the end of the year? What's inflation doing? So there's a lot of balls in the air, and there always are. But it seems like this currently there's a little bit more uncertainty than normal, right? Everyone's been kind of talking about potential recession. It's been one of the most telegraphed recessions forever, and we still just haven't seen it yet. The employment numbers look good. Consumer spending looked great in January. That was a big surprise. So it's a lot of ups and downs, and people are pretty unclear. How we think about it for our portfolio and your investment with us is we invest what we call an all-weather portfolio. So we have businesses that we think will do very well regardless of the economic environment. So a good example would be like our value retailers. So we own Dollar Tree, and we own a company called Ross Stores. And these are businesses that when the economy's doing well, they tend to do well with it. Their sales grow as consumers are spending money. But more importantly, when the economy sours and we go into recession, their sales actually accelerate. Right? So if a consumer's wallet's getting pinched, they might look to stretch their buck a little bit more and go to a Dollar Tree and try to get a little bit cheaper merchandise. Or Ross Stores, where they're an off-price retailer, has just wonderful bargains on home goods and on apparel. So you actually see their sales go up. So while everyone's kind of digesting, are we going to go into recession? Are we not? What's rates going to do? We say, well, we sit here with these businesses and we feel great. We feel very comfortable how they're going to perform kind of regardless of the environment. Another flavor of that is we have a lot of businesses that have what we call idiosyncratic drivers. So they have, their earnings and their cash flow are not necessarily going to be tied to whatever the economy does. They're going to be tied to the execution of these wonderful management teams and their business plans. And again, that gives us a lot of confidence to invest behind these companies because we know the management teams very, very well. We vetted them. We spend a lot of time following them. A third of the companies that we own, we've held for over a decade. So we got to know them very, very well. And we have confidence in these management teams that they can execute on their plans. So, maybe inflation stays high for a while. Maybe the Fed goes a little bit more aggressively than others thinking. And our businesses, as long as they execute, we think that they'll continue to grow their value over time. So we feel very, very comfortable, especially in this type of environment where there's all these balls in the air, very, very difficult to see into the crystal ball. Our weather portfolio just feels very, very comfortable holding these companies.
Thank you.
Thanks, Andy. And then I think Doug's going to speak a little bit about the fixed income, if that's all right.
Yeah, thank you for giving us some time to present to your commission today. And forgive me for my dress. I see you're all in ties and suits and coats and nice outfits. We're expecting 6 to 9 inches of snow in Milwaukee over the next 6 hours, and I live about a mile from the office, so I'm the one who volunteered to walk in to make sure that the office was open today while we let most people work remotely. So I will generally have a coat on. I'll look a lot nicer, but
we like farms. Your shirt looks like it says farm something.
Oh, it's a golf course in Alabama.
It was a farm.
It was a farm.
If you look behind me, you'll notice
you
a few
killed
golf
that
things.
farm.
It's one of my bad habits. A bit too involved with golf. But again, thank you for giving some time to present to the commission today. As was mentioned early in the comments, a historically difficult year for fixed income last year. we've been through rising rate environments before. I mean, that's not unique. You know, I've been in the business for 30 years and I've been through 4 or 5 of these cycles where interest rates rise. I think what made this particular cycle unique was the fact that the Fed essentially since 2007 had obliterated yield in the high quality fixed income markets. There was a little period in 2017 and 18 where they began to try to normalize interest rates. And then we had a little bit of a hiccup in the markets in late 2018. They abandoned their normalization of rates, began lowering rates, and then obviously we all know what happened when the pandemic hit, where they took rates to historically low levels and printed money at historically, generous rates. So really the big thing that happened, in the market was we went into a rising interest rate environment with no yield in the portfolio. And without yield, a bond portfolio has a very difficult time providing a positive return in a rising rate environment. I started in the business in late 80s, and even in 93, 94, when Greenspan, raised rates at a pace and at a level that's very similar to this, we barely had negative returns in our space, the intermediate space. The good news for our allocation to your portfolio, although it was down last year, because it's that intermediate, I mean, it was mentioned earlier that the fixed income markets in general were down about 13%. You are down a great deal less than that. And one of the reasons is it is that intermediate portfolio in your asset allocation. I would imagine that you have longer duration managers, aggregate managers. It's a pension fund with long liabilities. So that's perfectly appropriate. But within the scheme of things, we'd like to think our portfolio did do what it was supposed to do, limited losses in a very difficult market. The good news, as was mentioned earlier, is the past couple of months have been better. Interest rates when you started with us were at historically low levels. I believe the 2-year was right around 75 basis points, 3/4 of 1%. The 10-year was well under 2%. And as you know, the 10-year back in late last year peaked at, close to 4.25%. It's fallen since then, but it still has gone from about a 175 to a 375, 380 during the short time you've been with us. But the good news is, the long end of the yield curve, kind of the 5-year yields and out have actually come down a bit over the last few months. So while we had a difficult 2022, the end of 2022 and early 2023, you've seen some recovery. I think are about 3.5% in your portfolio over the last 3 months. So what's really happening in the fixed income markets? The markets, at least bond managers, are betting that either the Fed is going to get inflation under control with probably a soft landing and perhaps a recession. Because if the markets thought that inflation was going to stay high or the economy was going to continue to grow, those longer term interest rates would be higher than they are right now. So there's a disconnect between what the Fed is doing and what the market is voting on. The market is voting that the Fed is going to be at least marginally successful in getting inflation under control. And the way we read the 10-year yield at 3.8, it also means that the market right now is pricing in something closer to a soft landing than a crash. And I think, as Andy said, that's our outlook as well. So that's good for you on the equity side, and that should be good for you on the fixed income side. We are in the camp that the Fed, well, in fact, after the last couple of reports that Andy alluded to, the consumer spending report and the recent unemployment report, you really do have to start pricing in 5.5 on the Fed funds target rate or terminal rate. So the markets are kind of voting 5.25 to 5.5. If we go to 5.5, we suspect that the 10-year Treasury will probably go up a little bit in yield from here. But again, everybody expects at least a slowdown and potentially a recession. And we think that will limit the ability for the 10-year yield to continue rising. The good news for you is rates are probably close to a peak. The portfolio now has a yield of 4.5%. We'll be looking at 4.52 compared to about 1% a year and a half ago when you first started with us, or a little less than a year and a half. That provides income that even if rates continue to rise by a little bit, you will have more than enough income to offset any price losses. Which again, if you go back a year ago, the portfolio didn't have enough yield in it to offset those losses. So whether it's our portfolio or your longer duration fixed income managers that I'm sure you have in your allocation, the outlook for performance in fixed income is dramatically different than it's been for most of the past 15 years. So it's fun to be a fixed income manager for the first time. I've been growing the beard for 15. I finally trimmed it. So portfolio positioning really quickly. I think we've been positioned the portfolio appropriately for the market. Interest rates, as we knew, were going to rise through 2022, so we held the duration or the average maturity of your portfolio a little bit below the benchmark. That paid off as interest rates rose. As interest rates rose above 4% in that 10-year sector, we added a little bit more duration into the portfolio, got a little closer to the benchmark, but we're still playing it short of the benchmark. Although we don't think rates are going substantially higher, we don't think they're going any lower unless we truly start to enter a recession and that starts to get priced in on the long end of the yield curve. So still a little bit short of the benchmark. We think that's the appropriate place to be. We made a couple of moves in your portfolio last year. I think that were timely. So there's two things. We look in the market, what yield is available. That's really what we call a treasury curve. What are government bonds paying? But then if you buy anything but a treasury, you should get a yield over it. So if I buy a corporate, I should get a little more yield than a treasury. If I buy a mortgage back, I should get a little more yield. If I buy a high yield bond, I should get a lot more yield than I would for buying a treasury. We call that the spread. Well, when the market is pricing in no risk, spreads are very low. And again, when you first started with us, that's what the market was priced. It was priced for perfection. The economy was recovering. The Fed hadn't announced its tightening yet, or hadn't started its tightening yet. So the reward for having risk in your portfolio is very low. So we looked a lot like the index between corporates and treasuries. Well, as spreads widened, as we started to price in more of a recession, lower corporate earnings, spreads became a lot more attractive. So back in the late first, early second quarter of last year, we added quite a few corporate bonds and sold some treasuries. That trade has worked out really well as spreads have come back in, as now we're starting to price kind of more of a soft landing. We're allowing that to kind of shrink a little bit because now spreads having come back in a little bit, they're still attractive. They're not stupid rich like they were a year and a half ago, but they weren't as cheap as they were back when we added the corporates into your portfolio. So we're kind of letting those what we call roll down the yield curve as those spreads have come back in. If the economy continues to weaken and spreads widen out, you would expect us to add some more corporates into your portfolio because they'd be relatively attractive. Another area of the market that we're contemplating is getting back into mortgage-backed securities. They're government guaranteed, they're very liquid, Fannie, Freddie, Ginnie Mae, conventional 15 or 30-year mortgages. We don't do the private label or the subprime stuff. These are all very high quality government guaranteed pieces of paper, but their cash flows are unpredictable because of prepayments, the ability of a mortgage holder to prepay. Well, again, if you look back a year ago, spreads were ridiculously tight. Well, they've gotten back to somewhat attractive levels. So one trade we might do if we see some slightly cheaper spreads in that market is add some mortgages back into the portfolio. That would be an off index allocation because our benchmark doesn't have mortgages in it. So that's kind of performance, what happened last year, and kind of the turn in performance in the last couple of months, the positive turn. Some of the trades we've made over the course of the 1 year little over 1 year that you've been with us. And sometimes you don't see that when you only look at percentages or just the account statements at the end of the month. So I thought we'd give you an update on that. And then again, positioning, little short duration, a little overweight to corporates, potentially adding mortgages into the portfolio. So with that, I'll open it up to any questions.
Any questions? All right, Doug, thank you.
Wonderful, thank you, and appreciate the opportunity to be for coming for you.
Andy and Chris, thank you for your time. That's all we
Thank you, everyone.
We could just make one final, just real brief comment. So they mentioned about, soft landing and so on. There's a lot of conversation. There's an opinion everywhere about what's going to happen with the economy in the second half of this year. And it's not abundantly clear. If it was clear that everything would be easy. But what they're sharing is kind of in line with what Stifel's saying too, that we could potentially go into maybe a soft or a shortened recession, if you will, later on this year. But they mentioned a couple names about Dollar Tree and Ross and other holdings that the county has, because we do try to be defensive in our holdings. It's probably one of our main focuses that we have at Walmart and Hormel Foods, and Smucker's is known for their jelly, but it's a big food company. So we have have what's called defensive holdings. So people are still going to eat. They're still going to shop at Walmart. They're going to go to a discount store like Ross. So I just to kind of leave that as a final comment, if that's all right, Chairman, Mr. Chairman.
You're good.
All right.
Anything from the Fourth Estate? No, good. Okay. Any other questions? If not, we appreciate you guys coming in and giving us the
Very
update.
much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
All rise. Good morning. Okay. Good morning.
Morning. Morning.
Well, you're a little ahead of schedule, so we can take a moment or two to just introduce your team, and however you want to proceed, Dr. Yocum, you may do so. This is your annual report.
Right. Again, thank you for inviting me for the annual report, which we began many years ago. We make it a combined effort now. Jim Dunmoyer, who will be expounding upon the drug deaths. Holly Leahy will be talking about the suicides, and Bob Dowd will be talking about, we have a close association now. He'll be explaining how the coroner's office and his office are combining efforts to help with transportation and some other issues. So we're going to make it a combined effort, if that's okay.
Do you want to introduce your bodyguard then?
Oh yeah, and my one deputy came, Doug Livey. He's been with me. Doug, when did you start? 99. So he's put up with me for all those years.
Appreciate your work, Doug.
Yeah.
Okay.
And before I start, I want to talk about how important the relationships that the coroner's office has with the people that I just introduced. I mean, we're in close contact on a regular basis. I notify them of everything that's happening in their field, and my appreciation goes out to my deputies, because when they get that call from me at 2 o'clock in the morning to go out to take care of things, they're Johnny on the spot, and they just do a tremendous job. And thanks for the county support through the years, and this year, especially with COVID and how COVID affected the past 2 years. This year, COVID pretty well, coroner-wise, is pretty well non-existent. The hospital now is not reporting any COVID deaths to us because they're really just few and far between. So we're getting back to normal this year with COVID deaths, and we're getting back to the normal deaths that we've had through the years.
Do you take questions as you go?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, I'm reading the opposite in the papers. There's 100 deaths a day in Pennsylvania or something like that?
Not in Lebanon County.
Interesting.
Yeah. Okay, following the report of the year 2022 from the Lebanon County Coroner's Office. We had 855 cremations that we took care of. Total deaths that we investigated were 375. Natural deaths that we investigated were, out of the 375, we had 370 natural deaths. Accidental deaths, we had 45. Of those, 29 were drug related, which I said Jim will expound upon. We had 7 motor vehicle deaths we investigated, 1 motor vehicle pedestrian death, 3 deaths resulting from falls. We had 1 sudden unexpected infant death. We had 1 case of hypothermia, 1 case of asphyxia, 1 case of multiple blunt force trauma, which was, I'll just tell you now, was caused by a bull attack. We had 1 chop wound to the head. Then going on to suicides, we had 20 cases. And again, the most common cause of death was by gunshot. 12 cases were from gunshot wounds. 5 cases were overdose. We had 1 by hanging, 1 laceration of the wrist, and 1 train incident. Then we had 3 cases of homicides, and right now there's one case pending. Just to give you an idea, talking about COVID deaths and how that affected the office. 2019, we investigated 329 deaths. The following year, because of COVID, 2019, that was 329. 2020 was the first year for COVID. We had 526 cases. 2021, we had 498. Now we're getting back, as I said, this year, we had 376 cases. Going back to a normal year, 2019, 329. So you can see the numbers are up, but not as they were with COVID. So, we were just talking out in the hallway. I think we're going to see these pretty high numbers. The baby boomer generation is coming of age now. So I think we're going to see more natural deaths that we're going to be investigating because of we're getting older.
Bob's looking at me.
You looked at me, I looked at you.
Anyway, you were thinking.
I don't know if I'm a baby boomer.
I
hope not.
I have a serious question. Total deaths 375, but cremation is 855. How can you have more cremations than deaths?
Because we talked about this through the years. The coroner's office is in charge of investigating anybody who's going to be cremated. So the funeral homes call us. They have a cremation case. We investigate that case to make sure there's nothing suspicious that we would have to investigate. So the cremations really are a separate part of investigations. That's a total separate issue.
And other natural deaths would not be on this list either.
Right.
Yeah, so I mean, there's a whole other category that these are just the ones that you have to track through your coroner's office.
Right.
Yes.
It still doesn't make sense to me. I don't see how you double the numbers if you're reporting all deaths.
The cremations are a separate entity. They are not counted into the total deaths.
So, in other words, the true total deaths would be 855 plus 375?
Yeah, correct.
Oh, that would make it more clear to me.
Yeah.
If that number was...
Those that we investigate, all those cases, yes.
All
correct.
Right.
Yep.
Thank you.
Any other trending that you see, Dr. Yoakum, or is...
Well, they're going to be talking about some trends. I'd rather not. I don't want to steal their thunder.
It's okay.
You know, I could talk about it, but Jim told me when we came in that he'd rather, he talk about it.
I don't have thunder, but...
All right, well, whoever's next.
Yeah, you'll see some trends, which are good trends. Jim?
Okay, good morning again. My name's Jim Don Moyer. I'm the Executive Director of Lebanon County Commission on Drug and Alcohol Abuse. I'm here today to speak of overdose deaths in Lebanon County. First off, I want to give a historical perspective so you understand where we were and where we are now. In 2020, in Lebanon County, we had 39 overdose deaths, which was the most ever in Lebanon County. In 2021, we had 31 overdose deaths, which was a 20% decrease in deaths. And in 2022, as Dr. Yoakum earlier stated, we had a total of 29 overdose deaths, which is 6.4% decrease. So since 2020, we've decreased the overdose deaths in Lebanon County about 27%. Speaking of 2022, I want to break down some data, some statistics, so to speak. Out of those 29 overdose deaths, the gender, there was 18 males and 11 females. The age of these individuals, the oldest person was 84 years of age. The youngest person was 19 years of age, for an average age of 44.5 years of age. Race breakdown, there was 22 Caucasian individuals, there was 6 Hispanic, and there was 1 that was considered unknown. We also break down the deaths by months, so we get some idea of which months we had more overdose deaths than others. In January of 2022, we didn't have any, we had 0. February, we had 3. March was the highest month, we had 7. April, we had 2. May, we had 6. June, we had 2. July, we had 2. August, we had 0. September, we had 3. October, we had 2. And November, we had 1. December, we had 1, for a total of 29. We also, when we look at the overdose deaths in Lebanon County, we also break it down. It was a suggestion years ago. I don't know who brought this up, but there was a question of where exactly are these deaths happening in Lebanon County, so we can focus in on those areas, perhaps. So we break it down, the deaths by zip codes. The 17046, which is North City and North County, is 11 total. The 17042, which is the south side of Lebanon and the south side of the county, 13. 17078 was Palmyra, we had 3. And in Myerstown, 17067, we had 2, for the total of 29. This year we didn't have any in Jonestown. We didn't have any in Fredericksburg, Annville, Richland, Newmanstown. And I think last year when I reported this, I think it was kind of every municipality had at least 1, I believe. So it's really concentrated in 4 distinct areas, really 2, the 17046 and 17042. Out of those 29 people, 27 were actually Lebanon County residents. 2 were non-county residents. 1 was from the Bronx, New York, and 1 was from Fredericksburg, Virginia. Out of the 29 overdose deaths, 16 of the 29 involved fentanyl. Fentanyl is a drug that we see quite often in these overdose deaths.
Is that usually mixed with?
Well, it's a mixed, you call it mixology, but the mixture of fentanyl in with other drugs, whether it be someone thinks they're smoking marijuana,
and not really know what the weight
correct.
of that part is.
It's heroin mixed with fentanyl. It's marijuana mixed with fentanyl.
They have no idea what they're buying.
So 16 out of 29 this past year, which is 55%. And I look back at last year, I think it was close to 80% fentanyl was involved in the deaths
Is
last
that
year.
also mixed in with like the liquid products that they vape?
It can be, yeah.
Oh, really?
It can be.
Well, we were talking out in the hallway. I have my certification in addiction medicine, and I give a talk to the district attorney's group. When we look at marijuana, years ago you buy marijuana, you smoke a joint, no problem, you're smoking marijuana. Today, you don't know what that marijuana has been dipped in. We've had several deaths through the last couple of years of people smoking marijuana who died of a fentanyl overdose.
That's scary.
Yeah.
And that's the same with vape. You don't know actually
What's in
exactly is in the vape.
Any questions for Jim?
If they're going to these dispensaries, is there a guarantee there's no fentanyl in it?
Well, yes. I've heard people that I've dealt with in our office who use drugs and get drugs on the street are now turning to the dispensaries because they know it's not, the street drugs is dangerous, it's not pure, they're not getting what they think they're getting, but at the dispensary they're getting exactly what they're
right.
They're getting exactly
They
what
know they're getting the real thing.
So people are starting to take the attitude, I get my card and I'll go there, I'm not gonna buy my drugs on the street.
Dr. Yoakum or Jim, one of you, I've wondered this for the longest time, like with fentanyl. If I'm looking at it, if I'm a drug dealer and I'm looking to stay in business, why am I going to sell a product that one use is going to kill my customer? I cannot wrap my head around that.
That's part of addiction. I can tell you years ago when we used to find bags of marijuana of heroin at the scene, we would never release what the bag looked like because people who have a drug addiction look for stuff that they know is powerful, and that's going to give them a high that they might never have had before. So you have to be an addict to really know why, number one, why you're looking for that. And so the drug dealers try to give something that's going to give them a high that they've never experienced before.
I think I
Well,
learned that also. Oh, good.
But and the other thing to think about is even the drug dealers who selling it to the people on the street, they don't necessarily know they're cutting it with fentanyl. They're getting it from somewhere else. So like our dealers in Lebanon, whoever's dealing heroin in Lebanon, 9 out of 10 times they're getting it from somewhere. They might not even know there's fentanyl in it.
Wow.
But
And
that
they're
was,
selling it.
You know, one of the things we learned
the people
was
that are getting rich know it.
That's scary.
That if 3 people are involved as a group and one of them dies, you think, oh, that'll wake them up because they're not going to want to die. But no, they want to chase that next higher hit. And that was like shocking to me. You can't apply logic to this stuff because the addiction issue.
Nope. But is there any? I mean, I'm just fascinated by this. Are there any drug dealers that are careful with how much fentanyl they're cutting into the other product?
I can't answer that. I don't know.
So
I
it's
can't
really
speak for that.
Yeah. So it's really it's totally a crapshoot.
Totally.
Yeah.
So you in a roundabout way saying that the fact that there is legal dispensed marijuana in the state of Pennsylvania, that's led to fewer marijuana deaths?
No, I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying people have said to me, instead of getting my marijuana on the street, I'll go to the dispensary to get it. I didn't relate that in any way to death.
But if they know it's not cut with fentanyl because they're going to a legal dispensary.
Well, if they know it's not cut with fentanyl, that could be a reason why they're not buying on the street laced with fentanyl and maybe dying. I mean, there's a lot of reasons why our numbers are down. And I can't give you every reason. I have a few that our office would hope to think is the reason. One of the things that we do as an office, me personally, I'm the CCE of Lebanon County. Basically what that means is I get Narcan from the state, and I distribute Narcan in our community to whoever wants it. We give it to agencies, providers, we give it to school districts. All the school districts in Lebanon County have it. So I believe the use of Narcan has cut down on the number of deaths, for sure.
Right.
And there's other factors. I mean, we have a very active heroin task force here in Lebanon County. They do a lot of events. They do a lot of things in the community, as far as education, as far as awareness. They put on events. They actually give out Narcan at their events as well. So there's a grassroots part of it, and there's also a scientific part of it where we're providing Narcan. Last year in 2022, we distributed 84 cases, which comes out to be 1,032 kids across the county. We anticipate, I'm thinking that has something to do with our numbers going down, I would hope. The other thing in the future, my office, again, as the CCE, I'm going to be able to distribute fentanyl test strips. Fentanyl test strips in the past were, according to the law, were considered paraphernalia. So people couldn't possess them because if you did, you get arrested. It's against the law. And the legislators just passed 200 to 1 that, they reversed that. Now they don't consider it paraphernalia. You are allowed to possess fentanyl test strips. I will have those in my office, and I'll provide those to anybody who wants them. Again, that will help. If you're getting drugs, you can test your drugs before you use them. If there's fentanyl in it, the test strip will tell you there's fentanyl in it.
Every little bit helps. Yeah.
So those kind of things, I know for a
Yeah.
fact help.
To kind of piggyback on what Laura was saying, I can see where they would cut fentanyl with heroin because it's processed.
Mm-hmm.
But marijuana is grown and then cut, and it's not necessarily processed. Are they putting fentanyl on marijuana to raise the addiction levels so that they have repeat customers or customers who need that higher fix? I mean, what is your evidence telling you? Like, I can't see the logic behind putting fentanyl into marijuana unless you're trying to create a greater
bigger addiction.
Is that what's happening?
I don't know what their motivation is, sir. I can't speak for that. That makes, to me, logical sense.
It's certainly possible.
They usually dip the marijuana in a substance, and it's not always fentanyl. It can be other things. I mean, I heard it, embalming fluid. You ever heard that?
Jim, when will you have the fentanyl strips?
It was passed, and I'm waiting for PCCD supplies them to me.
Oh.
So as soon as they make all those arrangements with the state and get them out to us, so I'm anticipating in the next month, maybe. I would hope,
Okay.
you know,
Like
as
to
soon as possible.
Move on to,
Oh, I'm sorry.
no,
You had a question from the middle,
oh,
over here.
oh, go ahead,
Matt.
Matt.
I wanted to ask if you've seen an increase in Narcan distribution, the more we see how it affects.
2022, like I said, we distributed 1,032 kits. The year before, we distributed about 844. So, yeah, there is an increase with people wanting the Narcan kits.
Okay, thank you. Holly?
Good morning. So my name is Holly Leahy, Administrator for Lebanon County Mental Health Intellectual Disabilities Early Intervention Program. So I also have some data, statistics for you with regard to completed suicides in Lebanon County. I'll start with a little historical overview of the numbers. So dating back to 2013, we had 26 individuals that completed suicide that year. That was actually the highest since 2013. If we look toward 2015, we had the lowest at 13. And then ever since 2016, there were 20, and then moving forward through 2022, where we had 20. We've had anywhere between 18 to 21 during those years, each year. So we've been fairly consistent over the last 6 years with regard to completed suicides. If we look specifically at 2022, we did have 20. That was 12 males and 8 females. The average age was 51.4. And so if we look, the eldest was 92 and the youngest was 19. As Dr. Yoakum said, the highest method was by firearm. There were 12. There were 3 veterans. And then looking at if they had a mental health history, there were 9 out of the 20. And then if they were known to our agency, to MHIDEI, there were 2 out of the 20. If they had a known drug or alcohol history, there were 3 individuals. Then there were 19 Caucasian and 1 African American. And again, if we look at the place where they completed, there were 12 in Lebanon, so between that 17042 and 17046. But we did have several individuals that were not from Lebanon County. We had 2 that were from another county in Pennsylvania, and then we also had 1 individual from Fredericksburg, Virginia, interestingly enough. If we look at the months of completion, the highest in March we had 4, October there were 4, September 3, and November 3. So those were definitely our highest months of completion during those months of the year. If I turn at aggregate information for crisis intervention, on average, we have 2 crisis intervention per month. That's an average. And then on average, 200 individuals are actually visiting. So 274 visits, but that's actually only 200 individuals. Out of those 200 individuals, on average, we have about 65 each month who are presenting with suicidal ideation. So we actually have quite a large number of individuals presenting at crisis intervention with that suicidal ideation. But I think it speaks then to the system in whole and all of the services and supports that individuals are receiving so that they do not complete. So obviously if we look at those number of individuals, we could have a much higher number of completion per year. So it is really remarkable and speaks to all of the individuals in the system that are caring for those individuals who are really having thoughts of suicide each month. There is much going on with regard to suicide prevention each year, we do have an annual media campaign that is ongoing partnership with Wellspan Philhaven. That's a combination of social media, online newspapers, digital bulletins. We also have Labo's magazine, and then on the merchandiser. So we really tried to get out into the community. And then there are community trainings that are ongoing throughout the year, available to everyone in the community. And those are, again, available through Wellspan Philhaven. It's a combination of mental health first aid training, QPR, which is question, persuade, refer, suicide prevention training, and then Trauma 101. We do have a significant number of individuals in our community who have experienced trauma, and it's really important to understand how trauma affects individuals and how they respond to you each and every day. You can search on the wellspanphilhaven.org site for those trainings and sign up for those individually. And then we also have our Suicide Prevention Task Force, who meets the fourth Tuesday of each month. And there's much happening with that. We are currently working on May, which is Mental Health Awareness Month. We're working on a date in May 20th, for an awareness event where we will have vendors, activities, food, and a coordinated walk for individuals to really understand how mental health really is affecting our community and individuals in our community. Then we're also working on September, Suicide Prevention Month. We're creating that schedule of events. And we're making a little bit of change with regard to the remembrance ceremony. Typically in September, we have the remembrance ceremony at the garden, at the Stavers Dam barn. But this year, we have decided to move that to December and have more of a ceremony in December. So our office is working on that date and the specifics. So I would say stay tuned for more information with regard to that. Or if you'd like to know anything with regard to what is happening, you can call our office and we'd be more than happy to share. So there's a lot of initiatives and a lot of things that are happening each and every month for suicide prevention. Again, if you'd like specifics or more information, please feel free to call me or anyone of the staff at MHIDEI.
My recollection may be faulty, but it seems like the female percentage has really spiked.
Yes, absolutely. I'm sorry, I didn't note that. So, yes, it is unusually high to have 8 females. Typically, on average, we have maybe 2 or 3 are female per year. That number for females are definitely spiking, and the method that the females are completing is also spiking more with firearm, which is highly unusual for females as well. So yes, the statistics and the data overall seems to be shifting and changing. It is really important for us to have that data from Dr. Yoakum and to have that relationship, which is really driving our efforts for suicide prevention each and every year, because understanding that the data is not remaining constant. Previously it was always, white males, middle age, by firearm. That is definitely shifting.
So when we get these cases, we provide all that information that she gave you that they can follow.
Any questions for Holly? Anything else?
Can Bob just say 1 or 2 words?
Certainly.
2020 was when we started doing transports for the coroner's office. The reason for that transition, just kind of a refresh, was that ambulances in the county were already stretched thin, and they were doing these, and we needed to find a way to better utilize our public safety resources. So we've taken over that logistical piece for the coroner's office. This year, 2023, we added 6 additional occasional staff to help complete this task. It's a program that continues to grow, a relationship that's working well, and I think it's a good thing for everybody. It provides a good service to the community.
And I have to compliment my office staff. My office staff, 6 of them? Mm-hmm. 6 of them stepped up to the plate to participate in the transportation on-call schedule.
Wow.
So besides their work in the office, when they get done at night, they sign up for the on-call schedule to help transport bodies.
Yeah, the truck requires 2 people to be on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. These are people that have other jobs. We're only paying them when they go to a call. We're asking a lot because they're committing their time to be available for that response, whether or not there's a call. And you can't thank them enough for what they're doing for us.
Appreciate the interaction and cooperation.
Yeah. Really, I have to stress again, the cooperation that everybody in the county here provides to my office is beyond what I can, say to thank everybody in the county who really helps our office, and I really have never had any issues of getting participation or cooperation. I mean, thank you for everything.
Anything else, Bob? I just want to see if he's finished.
Yes.
Okay.
I have a question of Bob.
Yeah, I just want to know if
Okay.
he was finished with his.
I was wondering, and I know this isn't directly related, but I want to take advantage of the fact that you're here. I've had somebody ask me where they can get free test kits in the county these days. Do you have any idea if there are any
COVID
available?
test kits? For at least for the time being, I know that's coming to an end. You can go to pharmacies and get them under your health insurance, and then the federal program is still available through the USPS. So those 2 avenues are
Okay,
available.
I directed them to a pharmacy, and they were saying they had to pay for them there, but really, if they
don't-
have insurance, the insurance should be paying for them.
Most insurances are still covering it. You have to check with your individual provider, and I'm sure
Okay.
that's going to sunset at some point.
All right, and I know it's ending in May 11th or something like that, but I just wanted to see if you had any more information.
If they go to the USPS website, there's an allotment that gets refreshed every so often, and you can apply for that. They ship them right to you.
Ship them to your house?
Yep.
Okay, just double checking what has changed, thank you.
And if someone does test positive, there are CDC guidelines to follow? Is that
Yes. Yep.
Still,
Is it 5 days, and then 5 days masking?
I believe that's
Quarantine and
correct.
then masking, that's what
Yep.
I was told.
Yep.
I wanna make sure I followed the rules.
I don't, and you'll have to excuse me, I have not looked at it recently, but last I looked, it was 5 and 5.
5 and 5, yeah.
But always check the most current guidance on their website.
Okay, thank you.
anything else before?
A note to thank you. We had another deputy join the force. Her name is Jody Mangren. She went through the coroner's course, which you helped pay for, thank you. That's a 1-week course that they have to take before they become fully certified deputies. We will be having another person participate, hopefully, in the near future, so we'll add another deputy to the force.
And Doug, do you have anything from your end? You want to add?
Thank you for asking.
Okay. All right.
I do
Yes.
have one more question for Dr. Yoakum. I know there for a while we had had to get up to date at the Prothonotari's office. Are all the records that are supposed to be filed there now?
Every one of my records is in their office,
Every one of your records is in their office?
from the time I took office, correct?
Up to date?
Correct.
Okay. And that's effective?
Correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
When did they get there?
This has been happening over the past several months.
Okay. I'm sensing there's more to the story. That's why I'm asking.
They're all there.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Anything else for the good? I know Dr. Yoakum, you graduated from Lebanon, and we forgot to mention the Lebanon girls are 24-0.
No, great.
And they play tonight.
Great.
They play tonight.
Where do they play, Bob?
Manheim County.
At Manheim County.
They're not playing Manheim
I
County.
mean, is that an
That's
awesome
where the game
story or what? It's just so good for everybody in the county to have some keep cheering. And the Cedar boys, the Cedar Crest boys.
They did good. They lost.
Speaking of Lebanon High, did you see Judge E.B. was inducted into the Alumni Hall of Fame for Lebanon High?
Oh, wonderful.
Distinguished alumni.
Yep.
Sweet. Okay, well, on those good notes, thank you for your reports and
Thank you.
all your work on our behalf.
Thank you.
And Holly, you may stay.
Thank you.
You're not finished.
The principal is not finished with you yet.
Thank you.
All right. Do you have anyone else with you?
No, it's
Okay.
just me.
Okay, well then, you may go ahead with your report.
Thank you. So this morning, I'm here requesting approval for contract amendments for fiscal year 22-23. There are 8 contract amendments in total, and that is primarily due to new individuals needing the service and additional units being added to those contracts. The contract changes in total are $79,537, and those expenditures or contracts would be covered through our current block grant allocation, so we are not seeking any additional county tax dollars to fund those expenditures.
Motion?
I'll make-
To approve.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve those contract amendments. Any questions for Holly on this particular subject? Not all in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. So ordered.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Holly.
Appreciate it.
Have a good rest of your day.
Thank you, you too.
Thanks. There's a few things beyond the.
I'll make this quick. Okay, I only have basically 2 different things. Okay, first of all, I have some appointments to advisory boards. The first one I have is for the Lebanon County Commission on Drug and Alcohol Abuse Advisory Board. They would like to bring on Patricia Vincent to serve a first term to a 3-year term that will end in 2026. And she is employed by the County Probation Department, and she would be in the optional category.
Make a motion to appoint Patricia Vincent to the Drug and Alcohol Board.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve Patty for this volunteer service.
Okay.
Well, we have to vote. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. So moved. Okay.
All right, then we got a Commission for Women update. First of all, they're taking off Jenna Wrights. She has been on the board since March of 2022, but she has not attended, or she's only attended 1 meeting, and she is not answering any emails or phone calls. So they are taking her position and deeming it vacant. Elizabeth Judd is going to do a 2nd term, and her 1st term ended in January of this year. And she's agreed to stay on for another term, so her next term will expire January 31st of 2026.
Motion for.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Then moved and seconded that we approve those requests. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. So moved.
Okay, so the next thing that I have is for the P Corp Loss Prevention Grant Program. These are recommendations through the Safety Committee. So the first one I have is for a grant in the amount of $3,800. And these funds would be used to replace all the fire extinguishers in all county vehicles. Apparently, Hackman Fire Equipment has inspected all the fire extinguishers in the county cars and found that they were either expired or coming up on an expiration date. So they want to use the P Corp money for that.
I'll make a motion to approve the purchase of 70 fire extinguishers for the county cars distributed by DES.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve this grant. Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. So moved.
Okay, and then the next one is a grant amount in the amount of $3,500, and this is through the prison. The recommendation is to be used for the Guardian RFID program, and this is a device that's recommended by our insurance carrier to protect the county correctional facility against claims. So it's a handheld device that the correctional officers use to track real-time inmate movement, making sure the incarcerated individuals is accounted for, and that the correctional officers did a visual check on the individuals in the cell and housing units. So that would be that one.
Make a motion to approve that.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve this grant for the Guardian program. Any questions? If not, all in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign, so moved.
That's what I got.
Anything from the floor for the good? If not, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we stand adjourned. Thank you all for your attendance, and